The fight against one of the most corrupt agencies in the world, which lasted for more than 1,300 days and appeared to be an endless one, is finally coming to a close. Hello everyone, and thank you for visiting my channel. My name is Nick, and for those of you who are new to the channel, I hope that by the time you finish watching this video, you will have subscribed to the channel. That being said, I believe that the most appropriate approach to formally begin this video would be to say, let's go. To all of those people who have been holding XRP since the year 2020, once and for all, we have prevailed over the CC. The case has been concluded formally. It is not my wards, but rather the Chief Liquidity Officer of Ripple's. And this is something that can't be ignored. That is going to be the topic of our conversation. In general, the market, over $60,000 Bitcoin, would love to see that, but we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. A second video in which I discuss this topic is going to be my next project. It is necessary for us to get ready for the FOMC meeting that will take place this week. There are a lot of things that are going to happen in the near future that have the potential to alter the general view of the market. However, as of right now, XRP has increased by around almost 8% over the course of the past 60 days. Throughout the past 3 months, it has increased by approximately 20%. I would adore to witness that. When it comes to XRP, here is how the 7-day period looks. Over the course of a single day, it has increased by around 10.76%, which is equivalent to 3.25%. There's nothing insane about that. Moreover, for the 1 month, it was pretty much the same. In general, however, the most important question is what is going to take place at this moment. For the reason that in the event that you guys did miss it, the case is finished from the Kilo, which is something that we will discuss. Over the course of a considerable amount of time, I have been keeping a record of this. Pay attention, we have been discussing this matter ever since it was first brought up. Even on X, I've discussed it numerous times. My discussion on it can be found on YouTube. At that time, the most important issue that we were focusing on was addressing the amount of false information and hatred that was prevalent within the XRP community. In spite of the fact that I have always maintained that it was an opportunity disguised as a disguise, I did publish 2 posts in the months of March and even April. For the first time in March, there was a quote, and this was the first one. The post was cited because Mr. Huber published an excellent piece about the $2 billion that the SEC won from Ripple. This post was the reason why it was cited, all right? In addition, this served as a validation of who the Southeastern Conference is actually kind of batting for at that time. Because as you may recall, there are numerous cases that have been filed against JP Morgan as well as against all of the other major banks. I mean, it is not just JP Morgan. Take, for example, Bank of America and Citi. There are a great number of them. On the other hand, JP Morgan is never punished more than a slap on the wrist. As a result of proved fraud involving billions and billions of dollars, as well as manipulation of markets, commodities markets, and treasury markets, penalties of $100 million have been imposed. That is why I stated not to mention that the SEC led retail investors to suffer damages of $15 billion upon the announcement of the XRP case. I mean, it seems absurd to me, but that is the reason I said something like that. Aside from that, we are not even going to discuss the consequences. We are not even talking about how much innovation was impeded, and that is not even mentioning all of the losses that were caused by the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, through its actions toward other companies operating in the same industry. And that library that, had to declare for bankruptcy is something that we will never forget. Additionally, they did not stop FTX from passing by. At this point, I would argue that the damages from the SEC amount to well over $100 billion. I want to emphasize this point. However, in addition, I stated that the SEC had already caused sufficient harm. At the beginning of the year, they were asking for $1.4 billion, but now they are asking for $2 billion. What a load of lies. Not a single penny is due to them. Now, even over here, I did suggest that the Securities and Exchange Commission has wasted more than 3 years' worth of work attempting to argue a dispute with Ripple that will never finish. The most unfortunate aspect of this conflict is that it resulted in the squandering of billions of dollars in taxpayer funds. For the record, I did not even mention the $15 billion in damages that were incurred by investors in XRP, and that was just from the announcement. The legal fees that Ripple paid total more than $200 million, but just think about the potential that were lost. Just try to picture what those $200 million could have been used for if they had been put to better use. One of the most disheartening aspects of this whole situation is the contention that the entire conflict was fought to safeguard investors. One thing that I have observed throughout this conflict that has lasted for almost 4 years is that a corrupt government agency is attempting to force a NASA industry into a corner. At the same time as there is a clear motivation to select winners and losers, there is also someone who is being paid. The fact that we are still in the thick of this situation after more than 3 years is a sad reality. More than 1,300 days, to be exact, 1,364 days are included in this count. This is the amount of time that was required for this case to reach a conclusion. And just to go over a few things, let's begin with this, since this is the overall vision of the SEC and how they are treating crypto. Let's continue with this. Do you remember Gary Gensler's famous boards? The laws are clear and there is already clarity. However, the regulations and legislation that pertain to cryptocurrency and securities are quite open and accessible to their public. The information that we have obtained from Meta Lawman. When it comes to cryptocurrency, the Securities and Exchange Commission SEC appears to have a difficult time maintaining its credibility. Let's take a more in-depth look at the claims that the SEC attorneys made during the recent hearings that were held for Coinbase and Binance. Today is the 17th of January. Regarding these 12 or 13 tokens, you are implying that at the time that they were initially distributed, these tokens were securities in and of themselves. I do agree, Your Honor. Allow me to make this clear. The security does not consist of the token itself. How are you? January 22nd is the date. 5 days later is the time frame we are discussing. Do you take into consideration the fact that there is a distinction between the coins, which are the topic of the investment contracts, and the contracts themselves? I do agree, Your Honor. As we were briefed, the crypto asset is nothing more than a single line of code. The investment contract is effectively represented by the token itself. This is a statement made by the court. To be honest, I am not entirely certain that I have ever heard from the SEC that the token is a representation of the investment contract. With regard to the investment contract, the asset itself is the embodiment of the contract, and we continue to maintain a consistent position. For the premise that the Securities and Exchange Commission has contradicted itself, I would disagree. To conclude, the Securities and Exchange Commission SEC considers the cryptocurrency token itself to be a security because it is a security. Furthermore, these two assertions do not contradict one another. In addition, listen, this is precisely what is taking place in this situation. Take a look at the hearing for Coinbase. This is the exact statement that the SEC is making. Additionally, the hearing for Binance is taking place right now. To put it simply, this is completely absurd. This is precisely the reason why there is no progress being made in the crypto space. This is precisely the reason why, when we look at the cryptocurrency market as it exists today, there are simply no regulations, no norms, and no clarity in the United States regarding cryptocurrency. The Securities and Exchange Commission CC has included a footnote in its Binance brief. This is another point of interest, put an end to all the uncertainty around the security of crypto assets. It's possible that I'm the only one who thinks this, but I find it strange that footnotes give away clues about how to manage such a massive industry that has millions of investors and billions of dollars in daily trade. The next thing I know, I'll be reading this post over here. This is the report from the Dow. In this section, we also have another screenshot taken from the footnote attached. The Chief Legal Officer at Ripple, Stuart Alderoty, has provided this information. The case against Ripple has been resolved. However, for certain people, the fair notice defense is still a viable option. In light of the fact that the industry has become aware that crypto asset securities are subject to our securities regulations, the SEC references the Dow study from 2017. After 7 years, the Securities and Exchange Commission SEC extends its apologies to a federal judge, who is certainly a person of at least ordinary intellect, for the confusion that it caused by using the term that is inherently vague. In addition, if we take a closer look at this, we may access the Dow report from the SEC. In accordance with Section 21A of the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, the Securities and Exchange Commission CC published the report of the investigation